Rain poured relentlessly over the narrow streets of Lagos that night, drumming against tin rooftops and echoing through alleys like the sound of 1,000 whispers. In one of those alleys, a young man named Tun stood shivering under the dim glow of a flickering streetlight. His shirt was torn, his shoes barely holding together. He had just lost his 3rd job that month. Not because he was lazy, but because life never seemed to give him a fair chance. He stared at the sky, muttering, "God, when will my story change?" That was when a black SUV rolled up beside him. The window slid down slowly, and a woman's deep, commanding voice said, "You look like you could use a ride." Tun hesitated. Inside the car sat a woman who looked nothing like anyone he'd ever seen before. She was tall, muscular, and strikingly elegant, with short silver hair and skin that gleamed like bronze under the streetlight. Her name, as he would soon learn, was Madame Amara, a 60-year-old fitness mogul and businesswoman known for her wealth and intimidating power. At first, he thought she was just being kind. But days later, Amara invited him to her mansion, a palace of glass and marble overlooking the sea. She said she admired his spirit and offered him a job as her personal assistant. The pay was 10 times what he'd ever earned. Desperate and grateful, Tun accepted without thinking twice. But as days turned into nights, something strange happened. Amara started treating him less like an employee and more like a companion. She'd make him dinner herself, rare grilled fish, avocado salads, and smoothies made from exotic fruits he couldn't even name. She'd train in her private gym while he watched, her muscles rippling with impossible strength for a woman her age. And sometimes, her eyes would linger on him longer than comfort allowed. One evening, as they stood by her infinity pool, she turned to him and said in her smoky voice, "Tun, do you believe in fate?" He swallowed hard. "I guess I do." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe fate brought us together." Within 2 weeks, Amara proposed, not gently, not romantically, but like a deal. "Marry me," she said, "and I'll make sure you never struggle again." It didn't make sense. He was 24, she was 60, but her power, her wealth, her intensity, it was hypnotic. Against all logic, he said yes. The wedding made headlines across social media. Asterisk, young man marries rich older woman. Love or gold? Asterisk, but Tun didn't care. For the first time, he felt seen. Their honeymoon was in Zanzibar, luxurious, dreamlike. But even in paradise, Amara had rules. He wasn't allowed to enter certain rooms. She'd disappear for hours at dawn and return drenched in sweat, muttering in languages he didn't understand. And at night, she'd wake up screaming, drenched in fear, whispering, "They can't find out." On the 6th night after their wedding, Tun couldn't ignore his curiosity anymore. Amara had left the house for one of her midnight runs. He followed her. The moonlight guided him down the forest trail behind their villa until he reached an old, abandoned warehouse near the shore. Inside, faint blue light glowed through the cracks. He crept closer, heart pounding, and what he saw froze his blood. Amara stood in the center of the room, surrounded by strange symbols drawn on the floor, glowing like fireflies. Her body shimmered unnaturally, her skin tightening, her muscles pulsing as if alive. Before his eyes, her wrinkles vanished, and her silver hair turned jet black. She looked 30 again. Tun gasped, and she turned sharply. "Tun," she whispered, her voice no longer the same. "You weren't supposed to see this." He stumbled backward, his voice trembling. "What were you?" She sighed, stepping toward him slowly, her eyes glowing with a faint blue hue. "I told you I would give you a better life, but every gift has a price." "What price?" he demanded. Amara's smile was haunting. "My youth depends on something very rare, the life force of the one who loves me." His knees went weak. "You mean?" "Yes, Tun," she said softly, almost lovingly. "You were chosen not because of pity, but because you were pure, uncorrupted. That's why I married you. 6 days after our union, your energy begins to merge with mine." He backed away, fear slicing through him like lightning. "You're lying." But then he noticed his reflection in the glass wall. His face looked pale, his eyes hollow. He'd been feeling weaker lately, tired even after sleep. He thought it was stress, but now it made sense. "Stop," he yelled. "You're stealing my life." Amara's expression darkened, torn between sorrow and hunger. "I wish it didn't have to be you." Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered wildly. Wind howled through broken windows as candles blew out one by one. The glowing symbols pulsed faster, as if reacting to his presence. Tun turned to run, but the doors slammed shut on their own. "Please, Amara," he pleaded. "You don't have to do this." For the first time, she looked vulnerable. Tears shimmered in her eyes. "You don't understand, Tun. Without this ritual, I'll die. I've lived like this for 30 years. Every decade, I must find someone who still believes in love." He shook his head in disbelief. "So all your husbands—" "Yes," she whispered. "And every one of them thought they would last." Before she could step closer, thunder cracked outside. A sudden beam of light from the open roof struck the floor, breaking the circle of symbols. The glowing lines fizzled, and Amara screamed as her youthful skin began to fade, her hair turning silver once more. Tun seized a chance and bolted for the door. He crashed through it, running barefoot through the wet sand, his lungs burning. Behind him, he heard her voice echo through the night, not human anymore, deeper, older, sorrowful. "Tun, you can't run from what's already begun." Her words followed him all the way to the beach, where he collapsed, gasping, clutching his chest as pain seared through him. His veins glowed faintly blue for a moment, then faded. He looked toward the dark mansion on the hill, its windows flickering like dying stars. And that's when he realized something was still inside him, something that hadn't left when he escaped her. Her voice echoed faintly in his mind. "We're bound now forever." He screamed into the night, but no sound came out. And the next morning, when he looked into the mirror, he saw something in his reflection that wasn't his own, a faint flicker of blue beneath his eyes, just like hers. Tun stumbled backward from the mirror, gripping the sink as his breathing quickened. His reflection flickered again, a faint blue pulse beneath the skin like veins of light crawling just beneath the surface. He blinked rapidly, splashing water on his face, but the glow didn't vanish. Panic gripped him, crawling up his throat. He staggered out of the tiny beach shack he'd found shelter in, the sunlight already burning hot over the ocean, making his eyes sting. Every few seconds, he thought he heard her whisper, not from outside, but from inside his mind. Soft, seductive, familiar. "Tun, don't fight it. You're part of me now." He spun around, scanning the empty sand dunes. Nothing, only the sea stretching endlessly, the waves hissing like whispers that carried her voice. He pressed his palms to his temples. "Get out of my head." A sharp pain burst through his skull, forcing him to his knees. The blue veins beneath his skin pulsed brighter, spreading down his arms. He felt a surge of something, not just fear, but power, energy, a strange heat humming in his blood. He looked down and saw the sand trembling faintly beneath his hands, as if responding to him. He yanked them away, terrified. The connection hadn't broken. Whatever she had started wasn't finished. By nightfall, he was miles away from the coast, lost in the humid maze of the city again. He hid under bridges and half-finished buildings, anywhere he could avoid people. Every time someone got too close, the whispers started again, like Amara could sense their presence through him. He could almost hear her heart beating alongside his. At a small market near the outskirts, he overheard two women gossiping. They say Madame Amara vanished. One said, fanning herself. Police went to her mansion. No sign of her. But her gym. What about it? The other asked. Workers say they saw her that night, glowing like fire. Then she just disappeared. Poof. Gone. Tun's stomach twisted. He slipped away before they noticed him, his mind spinning. If she was gone, why could he still hear her? That night, he dreamed of her. She stood before him, young again, wrapped in a flowing red gown that shimmered like liquid fire. Her eyes glowed with that same blue light. Behind her, a dozen shadows of men, all her past husbands, perhaps, stood motionless, faces blank, eyes hollow. "Why are you doing this to me?" he shouted at her. Her lips curved into a faint, sorrowful smile. You think I wanted this life? I was cursed, tunned. The only way to survive was to pass it on, to share it. But you, she paused, stepping closer. You didn't die. You resisted it. You absorbed it. He frowned. Absorbed what? The essence, she whispered. The energy of immortality. It's inside you now. That's why I can't fully leave. We are bound by it. You carry both life and death within you. He woke up drenched in sweat, gasping, his body shaking violently. The moment he touched his chest, a burst of blue light flickered across his fingertips. He stumbled backward, knocking over the small lamp beside him. The glass shattered, scattering sparks across the floor. He had to find someone who could help him, someone who understood what this curse meant. 3 days later, his search led him to a small coastal village north of Lagos, where an old priestess named Mama Nina was rumored to deal with unnatural bindings. Her hut sat at the edge of a mangrove forest, wrapped in the smell of incense and sea salt. She looked at him for a long time before speaking. You have the scent of the old blood, she murmured. A woman touched by the spirit of Ajija, the one who trades you for souls. Tun's throat went dry. Can you remove it? Mama Nina's eyes narrowed. Remove? No. This kind of bond cannot be undone, only redirected. If you don't learn to control it, she will control you. You will become her. He froze. Become her? The curse needs a vessel, the priestess said, lighting a candle made of black wax. She is fading, but her spirit clings to you. If you resist, your body will burn from within. If you accept her, you will live, but not as yourself. He felt his heartbeat echo in his ears, wild and uneven. Then what do I do? She handed him a small wooden charm carved with strange symbols. When the blue light comes, speak her name aloud and strike the earth 3 times. If your heart is strong enough, you may reclaim your soul. He left the hut trembling, clutching the charm like it was his last hope. That night, the dreams came again, but stronger. Amara's voice filled his head, pleading, angry, desperate. Tun, please don't do this. You need me. Without me, you'll die. He pressed his hands over his ears, rocking back and forth. You're lying. But deep down, he could feel the truth. His heart was beating slower. His body felt heavy, weak. The glow under his skin pulsed faster, spreading toward his neck. He crawled outside, falling to his knees in the wet grass. The night air felt thick, electric. Now, he whispered to himself, raising the charm. He slammed it into ground once. The earth trembled faintly. He struck it again. A gust of cold wind blasted across the field. On the 3rd strike, the blue light erupted from his body, swirling like smoke into the night sky. And then she appeared before him, not as a dream, but as a glowing figure of blue fire. Amara, her face was calm now, almost peaceful. Tun, she said softly, you think you're freeing yourself, but this power doesn't vanish. It chooses. The ground beneath him shook violently. The charm cracked, releasing a shock wave that knocked him backward. The air around him shimmered, and he felt her energy collide with his, burning through his veins. His scream tore through the night as light poured from his eyes, mouth, and chest. He could feel her memories flooding in, decades of pain, love, fear, and the weight of immortality. He saw her first husband, her first ritual, her tears when she realized the price of eternal youth. And then silence. When he opened his eyes, the night was still. The charm was gone, turned to ash. Amara's figure had vanished. But when he looked at his hands, they no longer glowed blue. Instead, faint golden threads pulsed under his skin. The air around him felt heavier, charged. He stood slowly, every breath trembling. He looked toward the sea. The waves had gone still, unnaturally calm, reflecting the full moon like a mirror. For the first time, he couldn't hear her voice. But deep in his chest, he could feel a second heartbeat, slow, steady, ancient. And though she was gone from sight, something told him she hadn't truly left. Somewhere deep inside, a part of her waited, patient, watchful, and ready to rise again the moment his will faltered. The night breeze whispered across the dark fields, carrying with it a faint, familiar voice. We are not enemies, Tund. We are evolution. The golden veins beneath Tund's skin pulsed gently, glowing like trapped sunlight every time his heart beat. The night had gone eerily still after the storm of light faded, leaving him alone beneath the haunting beauty of a full moon. He stood there for a long while, trembling, as realization settled like cold ash. He was alive, but not the same. Something inside him had changed forever. His reflection in the calm water nearby no longer looked entirely human. His eyes shimmered faintly gold, his pupils reflecting tiny, fractal shapes that seemed to move on their own. Amara's essence had not died. It had merged with him. He could feel her, not whispering now, not haunting him, but breathing through him. He walked back to the city days later, weaker at first, yet strangely renewed. The world seemed sharper, sounds more vivid, colors deeper. He could hear people's heartbeats as they passed him, sense emotions in the air like invisible currents. Hunger, greed, sorrow, all of it vibrated within him. At night, when he closed his eyes, fragments of memories not his own would flood in, glimpses of ancient temples, of desert rituals under blood moons, of Amara standing before a mirror centuries ago, her face young and defiant as she first struck her bargain for immortality. He began to understand. The curse wasn't a spell. It was a cycle, a chain linking souls across time, each inheriting the power and pain of the one before. Amara hadn't been evil. She had been trapped, consumed by the very energy she once believed would free her. And now he was next in line. In the following weeks, people began to notice him. It started with small things, strangers stopping mid-conversation to stare as he walked by, their eyes following him as though drawn to some invisible magnet. Then came the rumors. Market vendors swore that when he touched their fruits, they stayed fresh for days longer. A sick child he once helped stand miraculously recovered the next day. Some called him blessed. Others whispered that he was a spirit walking in human form. He avoided attention, retreating to the edge of the city. But no matter how much he hid, something within him was awakening. Sometimes, when fear or anger stirred, objects around him would tremble, lights flicker, and the air would hum faintly. He realized he could manipulate energy, not fully, but instinctively. It was as if Amara's ancient knowledge was flowing through his blood, teaching him through visions. Yet every gift carried its shadow. The more he used the power, the colder his body became. His reflection began to change again, his veins glowing brighter, his skin slowly losing warmth. He felt detached, drifting further from the world of ordinary humans. At night, he'd wake to find himself whispering in Amara's voice. She was no longer an echo. She was within. One evening, as dusk bathed the ocean in red light, he walked to the cliff overlooking the sea, the same spot where Amara's mansion once stood before the police sealed it off. The ruins were silent now, haunted only by the wind. He stood among the broken marble and shards of glass, feeling her presence surge through the air like a returning tide. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why did you choose me?" The wind shifted, and her voice came faintly. Not in his mind this time, but around him, carried through the air itself. "Because you were pure. You had love left in your heart. Every soul before you was corrupted by greed. But you felt compassion, even for me." He closed his eyes, tears burning his cheeks. "You took my life away. I gave you something greater," she said softly. "A chance to break the chain." He fell to his knees, the memories flooding him once more. Amara's first husband, a kind-hearted healer, had tried to save her, too. He had died trying. The others had all surrendered to the curse, letting it consume them. But Tund was different. The bond between them had not ended in hatred. It had become something else, something the curse had never encountered before. Forgiveness. And forgiveness, he realized, could rewrite destiny. He rose slowly, his breath steadying. The golden light beneath his skin flared brighter, radiating warmth that pushed the shadows back. He could feel her pain inside him, her centuries of regret, her endless hunger for love. And instead of rejecting it, he embraced it. "I forgive you, Amara," he whispered. "You don't have to live through me anymore." The air trembled, the ocean roaring as if the heavens themselves had heard his words. The ruins around him began to glow faintly. the sand swirling in circles at his feet. A beam of golden light burst from his chest, shooting upward into the sky like a comet. Inside that light, he saw her face, no longer twisted by power or fear, but calm, beautiful, and free. "Thank you," her voice murmured one last time. And then she was gone. Completely. Tun collapsed, his body trembling. When he woke, dawn had arrived. The first rays of sunlight kissed the horizon, and the world felt new, impossibly alive. He felt no glow under his skin now. The veins had faded. The curse was gone. Yet something else remained, a sense of balance, of deep understanding. He could still feel the flow of life around him, every heartbeat, every breeze, but it was peaceful now, no longer consuming him. He spent the following months in silence, living among fishermen by the coast, helping rebuild homes after a storm, mending boats, teaching children. He no longer sought riches or fame. The strange energy within him seemed to heal those near him without effort, a gift purified through sacrifice. People began to call him Asterisk, the man with the golden heart. Asterisk. And though he never told anyone the truth, he often walked by the sea at night, watching the waves shimmer beneath the moonlight. Sometimes, just before the tide turned, he thought he saw her, a faint silhouette standing on the water, smiling, not haunting him, but watching over him, finally free from the curse that had bound her for centuries. But the story didn't end there. One evening, as he sat alone by the shore, a young woman approached. She was lost, frightened, carrying a small child. Her eyes were tired. Yet when she saw him, she gasped softly. "I've been dreaming about you," she whispered. "You were calling me. You said you could help." Tun frowned. "I don't know you." She shook her head. "No, but you said my name in the dream. You told me to find you before the moon turns red." Before he could respond, the air shifted. A faint vibration rippled through the sand. The ocean's calm surface stirred, glowing faintly gold for a heartbeat before fading again. He looked at her child, a boy no older than 3, and froze. The boy's eyes gleamed faintly blue. His heart stopped. He reached out gently, the world spinning around him. The boy smiled, a smile too knowing, too familiar. "Hello, Tund," the child said softly, voice sweet but eerily calm. "It's been a long time." The woman gasped, clutching her son, unaware of what was happening. But Tun knew. The warmth drained from his body, replaced by a cold, crawling realization that sliced through him like a blade. The curse hadn't ended. It had only changed form. Amara's energy, purged from his soul, had found a new vessel, reborn, innocent, waiting for the right moment to awaken again. He stared into the child's glowing blue eyes, his breath shallow. For a moment, he thought he heard her voice once more, not cruel, not vengeful, but tender, motherly. Everything rebirths, Tund, even redemption. The waves crashed harder now, the sky darkening with distant thunder. The boy's laughter echoed softly, pure yet chilling. Tund felt tears fill his eyes, not from fear this time, but from understanding. Some cycles weren't meant to be broken. They were meant to be lived differently. He smiled faintly, kneeling before the child. "If this is how it must be," he whispered, "then maybe this time we'll get it right." The wind howled, the sea roared, and the golden shimmer returned briefly beneath the skin, not as a curse, but as acceptance. Somewhere in that balance between light and shadow, life and eternity, a new story was beginning. One not written by destiny, but by choice. And as the moon rose over the restless sea, the line between love, curse, and immortality blurred once more, leaving behind a haunting truth that even after death, some bonds are far too powerful to fade.